Am I live? All right, I think this is working. We're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. It's Heather from Blue Planet Scuba in Washington, D.C. And welcome to our first ever Travel Tuesday live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, if everything's working correctly. This is the very first time we're offering this, and it's something we want to start offering every week as a way to talk about some of our favorite dive destinations and trips that we've been on in the past, places we're planning to go in the future, and also just to answer your questions about a lot of these places and share some travel tips. So this week we're going to be talking about the Galapagos. We were just there in 2017, as you may be able to see on my shirt. And we had a blast. It was an epic trip and we loved it so much that we're planning to go back again next year. We had two trips that were scheduled for 2020 that unfortunately had to reschedule due to COVID, but we are planning to go back in March of next year. That trip is currently full, but we do have some spaces left when we go back in May of 2021. So we would love for you to join us. And yeah, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share some photos of our trip there in 2017. And talk about, our experiences and what you can expect if you go yourself or come with us on the trip. So let me share my screen here. All right. Hopefully that's working. So yeah, when we went in 2017, we did this exact trip, and we're going to be doing the same thing again when we go back next year. But yeah, for the liveaboard, we actually spent a week diving on the Galapagos Aggressor, and it was fantastic. This is a picture of the boat. It sleeps 16, so there's 8 cabins, and the crew are all amazing. You can see here the trips generally run Thursday to Thursday, and we're going in March and again in May when the water is warmer, clearer, greater chance of seeing big schools of hammerheads, manta rays, eagle rays. And yeah, we get to bounce around to a bunch of different islands. This is why liveaboards are so fantastic, especially when diving destinations like the Galapagos. We do get to spend a couple of days up at Darwin and Wolf, and it was fantastic. This is a picture of one of the cabins. They do have cabins that accommodate couples. So this is a double bed, or you can get it with 2 twins. They have 4 cabins that are above deck, 4 cabins below, but all of them are pretty spacious and well-appointed and comfortable. Also on the boat, they have a pretty good sized salon where you took meals. They also have a big sun deck, so if you'd like to spend more time outside, physically distancing yourself from your fellow divers, you can totally do that too. And the crew was fantastic. They took excellent care of us. And we had a great time. We really enjoyed spending a week traveling around with them. Divers, you can totally do that. All right, sorry, Jonas is having some technical issues. The great thing is when you're on the boat, you're not just diving. We did do a couple of land tours as well. Here you can see one of our favorite divers showing off his incredible strength lifting these heavy volcanic rocks. This was a really cool island. We got to jump out and explore and hike up to the top. Here's our group at the top. It was beautiful. We had a fantastic view. And this island is one of the newer islands in the island chain. So you can see it looks just like a volcanic island. There was very little in the way of vegetation growing there. But it was really cool to see the wildlife around that island too. We got to see penguins, which is, I've never seen penguins on other dive trips. I don't know about you, but the Galapagos is one of those special places where you can see penguins a little bit further north from where they usually live, down in the southern part of the southern hemisphere. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And the diving was spectacular. We got to, like I said, we got to visit a bunch of different islands from the boat and see all kinds of wildlife. On our very first day, just to kind of give you a sense of what the itinerary is like, on Thursday, the day the boat departs, you actually fly into the Galapagos, into Baltra. That's the main island where the airport is. And then it's just a quick little van ride from the airport to the marina where we hop onto the Aggressor. That first day, I think we got a couple of dives in the afternoon just to kind of, shake off all the cobwebs, make sure everyone's comfortable. And in one of those very first dives, we actually saw mola mola, which is what I was dying to see. So that was awesome. Unfortunately, I don't have a photo of that because it's kind of on the deeper end. But we did see lots of spectacular wildlife. The water temps vary a lot. We had anything from 80 degrees down to the 60s. So we all wore 7mm wetsuits, or most of us did. And then I brought a hood and gloves for some of those cooler dives. But, you know, when it's 78 degrees and you're in a 7mm, it was pretty toasty, and I was really happy about that. There were tons of turtles, and it was a special time for turtles, as you can see here. We saw so many green turtles, we got sick of counting them. Schools of barracuda, lots of schools of amazing fish life, more butterflies than you've ever seen in one place, and just truly spectacular reefs. Also, when we go up to the islands in the north around Wolf and Darwin, that's where you're more likely to see some of those schooling hammerheads. So that was a really special experience, being able to see so many sharks and so many big pelagics in the same place. Everyone just had a blast. Also, up around that area, there are some friendly sea lions, not quite the same as what you might see when you're visiting Baja, like Los Islotes. These aren't quite as familiar with divers and people, but still they were curious and wanted to come check us out and play with us. Here you can see, I'm like, there's 2 sea lions playing now, as opposed to the one who was chewing on our fins earlier. Also, the boat has a hot tub. So I know you don't have to tell me. I know we're not supposed to go and, you know, immerse ourselves in hot water after diving. This is more of a warm tub. So it was kind of a race at the end of the day to strip off our wetsuits and go and sit up in the hot tub and talk about what we'd seen for the day and just kind of warm up a little bit in the warm water. It was a really nice way to kind of see the top side too from that vantage point. Again, lots of big schools of fish. We had dolphins come and swim with us. We saw some mantas, or did we see mantas on the trip? We definitely saw mantas, eagle rays, all kinds of stuff. Again, the other thing that was really special about this place, it's the hammerhead sharks love to come in and get cleaned there. So we got really good at trying to be as still as possible, clinging on to the rocks on top of this one little pinnacle. And if you're nice and still, the hammerheads will get close, so you could get some incredible shots like this one that Jonas took. Here's a picture of the arch on the top side. And then, of course, you have to get a picture in front of the arch. So our dive team was wonderful in getting these fun photos of all of us. We had a blast. And so you can tell here the diving is from Zodiacs. One question we get a lot too is, how hard is the diving? Do you really need to be a super experienced diver to dive the Galapagos? You do need to have at least advanced open water certification and nitrox. It's better for everyone to be diving the same gas blend because we'd like to have similar bottom times. So those are 2 certifications you definitely should have going there. And they do want you to have at least 50 dives of experience before you head over to the Galapagos. When we were there, it wasn't particularly challenging, but we could have just had an easy week. There can be currents, there's crazy surge, and you just need to, you know, be comfortable diving in the blue, doing a safety stop, not on a line, diving from little Zodiacs like this, so, you know, getting into these little inflatable boats, doing back rolls, and then at the end of the dive, climbing back in. So yeah, it's definitely not super easy diving for new divers. You do want to have a good number of dives and different kinds of dive experiences under your belt before you head to the Galapagos. Again, more playing with the sea lions. They like to chew on our fins. And those fins too. And then we had some cute little fur seals who were staring at us from the surface as well, wondering what we were doing down there. Just really awesome encounters. I think we spent probably, I don't know, 45 minutes in the shallows and like 15 feet of water playing with these guys in crazy sturge, but they're just too cute. It's hard to say no. Also, we got to see marine iguanas actually eating underwater. That was a super special experience. They are like little dinosaurs. It's absolutely incredible witnessing this. Yes, they're really beautiful octopus too, but my favorite is seeing these iguanas swimming. It felt like this is what Godzilla must look like swimming. It was crazy. It was a really, really neat experience and something you can only do in the Galapagos. Again, little dinosaurs underwater. This was a super surgy area too, but there's a lot of life there. It was really neat to see. And then, like I said, we did some dives in warmer places and then some dives in cooler water. That's where a lot of these photos were taken. It really is based on currents, and that's what, again, makes the Galapagos so unique as compared to other dive destinations, to have that kind of temperature variability, and the dive sites were so different too. The great thing is you get a lot of macro life as well. So it was really hard to decide on each dive what lens you're going to be using, but there's lots of cool little stuff to see too. All right, and then yeah, you can see this is an example of one of the boards for dive briefings. The guides were just phenomenal. It was really, really amazing to have such experienced guides with us on the trip. And a lot of them have been diving there for years and guiding, so they knew every site, you know, every condition. As long as you did what they said, no one had any problems. They took great care of us. And it's also interesting to note that the dive guides working in the Galapagos also need to have the same kind of training that the Galapagos requires of everyone who's acting as a tour guide in the Galapagos. So they were extremely knowledgeable, not just of what we were seeing underwater, but of what we got to see and experience on land as well. Again, just more incredible rays. And of course, at the end of the trip, we spend the last day, we go back into port and spend the last afternoon topside. We went to go visit one of the land tortoise breeding sanctuaries. And that was really neat to see what all the efforts that are being put into protecting these animals. So we got to see some little ones, some big ones. Had dinner in town the last night. This photo is a group shot of our divers with the crew of the boat, just having a blast. Again, it was such a fantastic trip. The crew of the Aggressor made us feel really welcome, and we look forward to getting back down there and diving with them. So that covers what we did on the boat for that week on the Aggressor, Thursday to Thursday. But oftentimes you might find that you have a day or two on either end to do a little bit more exploring. So I also want to talk a little bit about being a tourist around Quito and some of the stuff we did there, and some of the land-based tours we did both before and after the trip. So stick around for those. I'll be showing you more photos from those and explaining a little bit about what we did in 2017 and what we're also planning to do next year. So we had, on Thursday, we flew back into Quito, and for a number of us, we were going on to the Amazon after this. So we spent the afternoon touring around Quito, had a fantastic guide who took us to see kind of some of the more touristy stuff. So this is I think it's like the center of the world. It's basically where you can go and stand on both sides of the equator at the same time. So that was really cool to see. I've got some more photos somewhere, but I just had to pull these together really quickly. We also went and toured around downtown Quito and saw a lot of the beautiful architecture. Really got a sense of like the vibe of the city. Had dinner down there, and it was a nice way to spend the afternoon and evening before we were flying out the next day, just to learn a little bit more about Ecuador and the nation's history. So jumping backwards, for those of us who had some extra time on the front end of the trip, as I mentioned, you don't board the liveaboard until Thursday. So if you have some time and you want to see some more topside, we flew down on Saturday and stayed in Quito one night. And then Sunday, we actually flew to the Galapagos and then transferred down to Isabella Island, which is one of the larger islands in the southern part of the Galapagos. It's not very heavily touristed at this point, or at least when we were there. So it was really neat to be somewhere where you didn't see a ton of other people, but you got to see some incredible wildlife and landscapes. Here's one example. We did a lot of really great hikes. This is one where we went up to check out a massive volcanic crater that we hiked around, and then went to Volcan Chico, which was actually a volcano that had erupted. I'm terrible with my dates, but had erupted before. So you could see we had this crazy change of landscape from this green verdant place to feeling like we were walking on Mars. So we've got this incredible hike in, saw some really neat formations, had fun being silly. And it was just absolutely incredible. It was a great way to spend the day and get out and see some parts of the Galapagos you may not see from the boat. We also went and saw some more tortoises. This was, again, prior to the boat, so this was our first encounter with them. And again, just absolutely incredible seeing these animals up close and learning more about the efforts to conserve them. And of course, the famous blue-footed boobies. Lots of incredible birds. This photo is taken from right in front of our hotel on Isabella Island. It's right on the beach, and there's this big pile, it's like a breakwater of all these big gray rocks. And as you get closer, you realize the rocks are actually moving, and they are just completely covered in iguanas. And so that was really crazy to see, and just fascinating to go and check out several times. We also did some really cool tours where we went snorkeling, and then checked out some neat formations. We were snorkeling both with sharks and then in the mangroves with seahorses. So that was really incredible. We even got to snorkel with penguins. We went to this one island where the only shade and only bench was occupied by a sea lion. So he's not willing to give up his seat. But it was really cool to see them up close. They're everywhere. But this one island was also completely covered in iguanas. They were breeding at that point, so you can see they were everywhere, and they dig these little burrows, so you have to be really careful where you walk. But it was, again, fascinating to learn more about their natural history, the natural history of the islands, but also learn more about the iguanas themselves. We also went to visit some more historical sites. This was the Wall of Tears. Again, another great hike, but it was really interesting to learn about the history of the Galapagos and what had happened on a lot of these islands. And again, see some of these incredible tortoises up close and in person, although I was very sad you couldn't actually pet them. And again, just beautiful seascapes everywhere too. So this is right along the beach, where they have the Sally Lightfoot crabs everywhere, and they're just beautiful. And one of my favorite places about Isabella Island is we found this great little beach bar where they had a sunset happy hour every night. So I think we ended up having dinner there most evenings, and kicking back and having a beverage or two, and taking pictures of the sunset. This is where some surfers would hang out, and people just generally came to relax. So that was our Isabella Island trip. From that point, we went back on Thursday to go meet the others on Balter Island and hop on the boat, and do the liveaboard. For people who have a little bit of time after the liveaboard, since it ends on a Thursday, we decided to also go and explore the Ecuadorian Amazon. And that was a whole unique experience unto itself too. For this, we spent the night in Quito, Thursday night in Quito, and Friday morning we took a little flight down to this tiny town along one of the rivers there called Coca. And it's on a river that's a tributary to the Amazon. And from there we boarded this crazy long covered boat. It looks like a super long, huge canoe that is filled with seats like you might find on a bus. So we got to cruise along the river, check out the landscape. And as you can see, it was massive. And we were on that for several hours before we got to this little stopping point, which was along a stream that led into the jungle. And this was the entry point to the Napa Wildlife Center, where we stayed for 3 or 4 nights. And it was spectacular. At this point, we actually transferred everyone into these little tiny canoes, where guides would paddle us into the forest until we made it to this massive black lagoon, which is where the Napa Wildlife Center is housed. This wildlife center is super special. It was built by the local Quechua people. And what they've done is they've actually preserved this whole area and prevented, they don't allow any hunting or fishing or motorized vehicles or anything because they want to make it a wildlife preserve. So it was really awesome to be able to go and support this kind of fantastic sustainable tourism and just learn about what it's like in the rainforests there. As you can see, they have all these cute little kind of like bungalows where we all stayed, and you can have 2 person to each one. And then that big tall building in the middle is where we had the restaurant and bar, and you could actually climb up some stairs or take an elevator, I believe, up to the top where you had another viewing tower, like up in the canopy, so you could see the local wildlife. And that's the view from it. It's just gorgeous. And again, you can see there's these little walkways that take you everywhere. One evening after dinner, we did a night hike around the resort, which was pretty spectacular. Just seeing how much wildlife is that close to where you're staying was awesome. But during the day, we basically would start each morning waking up really early, having breakfast, and then heading out in the canoes to go explore off of the lagoon a bunch of different little waterways. And we had a fantastic local guide and then another guide who kind of served as a translator, but also, was excellent at spotting things and explaining what we were seeing as we paddled along. So we saw all kinds of amazing critters like golden mantled tamarins. There's no swimming in the lagoon because of there are some caimans there. There's also a family of giant river otters, and I'm sad I don't have a picture of them in here because they are truly incredible. We had howler monkeys every morning and every evening. You could fall asleep or wake up to the sounds of those guys in the trees. Squirrel monkeys, all kinds of stuff. Just absolutely incredible wildlife. Stuff you could see both from the boat, but also from the canopy towers that we would go to. One day we actually crawled up. You climb up all of these stairs to the top of this massive tree where they have one of their towers where you can look and just, bring some good binoculars, bring your big lens for your camera, because there's some really incredible spotting opportunities for birds and other kinds of wildlife. But you still see tons of stuff just right along the river banks, looking at the trees. These were some bats that were hanging out that we were trying not to wake up as we paddled along under them. But we also took a day where we went to some cliffs and saw where a bunch of the local parrots go and have a salt lick, basically, where they get all kinds of minerals. It was really fascinating. So we spent just a few days here. Some people decided to extend their stay and go find pink river dolphins, which they did successfully. But I wish we could have had more time. It was really, really a truly special place. And in addition to the wildlife, we also went to the local village and got to meet some of the folks there who didn't work at the nature center, and learn more about their customs and traditions. And it was just a spectacular experience altogether. So yeah, once that was over, I think we were back into Quito on Monday, so we could fly home Monday night. So it worked out pretty well. If you have a couple of days to add on either side, or if you can make both work, I definitely suggest doing it. It was amazing. So like I mentioned, our March trip, where we're doing this exact itinerary, is already full, but we're going to be doing it again in May. So we're going to be on the liveaboard from May 6th through 13th. That's Thursday to Thursday. But people can join us for the pre-liveaboard trip to Isabella Island the Saturday before, or can stick around, or maybe in addition to, stick around and join us in the Amazon afterwards for a few days to see what that's like. All right, so I'm done talking now. Stop sharing my screen. And yeah, do we have any questions or things to answer? Okay, so if you have questions about the Galapagos or anything else, feel free to go ahead and post them in the comments here, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or even on YouTube, and we'll be happy to reply. You can also get in touch with us directly at info@blueplanetdc.com or give us a call at the shop. We have more information on this Galapagos trip on our website, and you can find that under blueplanetdc.com/trips. Plus, we have a lot of other great trips lined up that, fingers crossed, will actually get out as long as it's safe to travel, or once it's safe to travel again. And yeah, if you have any questions, please get in touch with us, and we look forward to seeing you all on another trip soon. And definitely tune in again next week. We'll be back on Tuesday at noon. And topic TBD, we're waiting to hear whether or not, we're waiting for the green line on a few of the places that we're looking forward to traveling to again. So based on what we hear in the next week, we will announce the topic for that Facebook and Instagram Live soon. But thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.